You're watching Talking Pool with Bryan and Jason on the FXBilliards channel.
Hey gang, it's Bryan from FXBilliards. I am here again with Jason, and we have a good podcast for you today. We are going to talk about practice. So Jason, welcome again. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back, man. It's a great channel. I've been enjoying watching some of the videos that we've produced. We're getting a lot of views and everything, so that's been very enjoyable on both of our parts, I'm sure. So glad to be back.
Great, and welcome back. So we're going to talk about practice today, and I'm going to talk to you guys about the P.E.T.R.A method, which is a method that I developed for myself, at least, and I try to pass on to my students, but I don't drill it into them. But it's a method that I developed for myself 19 years ago for practicing after my daughter Petra was born, and it's a way of having a very efficient practice session. Jason, what are some of the challenges that you run into as far as practice go?
If I'm being honest, enthusiasm sometimes to practice. I'm being very frank because I play once or twice a week with a couple of friends that actually come over to my table and my place, and that to me is fun. We'll start on a Thursday night and we'll start playing at 8 o'clock, and we probably don't stop till 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, and that to me is fun. And it's challenging. It's enjoyable. Sometimes to sit down on a table or to stand on a table when you're by yourself and just stay there drilling is, particularly some of the shots that you don't like, because that's normally what probably we should be practicing the most. You can play all you want, but you're not learning as much as you do when you practice, and I do believe in that, because practicing is what has made me a little bit better. So I do buy that. But yeah, enthusiasm, I think, is the biggest challenge, for practicing.
Let me just talk about my philosophy about play versus practice. That's basically that you're doing one of three things at the pool table, and not just at the pool table, at the basketball court or, bocce ball, whatever your game is. So I have three things that I feel you're doing at the pool table or whatever your sport is. You're either playing, practicing, or testing. And sometimes they overlap, because I practice and I keep score of my practices. So when I'm doing a drill, I keep score of how well I do that drill. If I'm doing my acid test, those of you who don't know what the acid test is, I will put a little window up in the video right here to show you what the acid test is. But if I'm doing the acid test or any of my regular drills, I keep score. So I know how I did 5 years ago, even versus today. The dangerous thing for a lot of us is that we have done things wrong, some of us, for a very long time and done well. And one of the things that a lot of guys that play well today did wrong was to play to get better instead of putting in as many hours of practice. The problem is you might have to play 3,000 hours to get in the same amount of improvement that you would get from 500 hours and 6 hours worth of pool lessons. So the whole point is to improve faster. And I think that's that's what it's all about. And that's what the P.E.T.R.A method that I developed was all about. I'm not going to practice. I had a 1-year-old daughter. I'm not going to practice, and I was working, full time outside of pool back then. So I'm not going to practice 8 hours a day, 7 to 8 hours a day. And it's funny because what I was doing full time back then was playing cards, but I still had to be places at times, and I could not put in 8 hours, at the pool table. So the thing that I wanted to do was make my practice more
efficient.
More efficient, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where the P.E.T.R.A method came from. I'm going to blow through it real quick, just to give you an idea of what it means. So the P in P.E.T.R.A stands for progression, which means when you're doing drills, because you got to do drills to improve. It's just the nature of things. And your drill might be running racks in rotation. Okay, that might be your drill, because that, and I'll get to that a little bit later, but doing things that push you, that stretch you, sometimes that are repetitive, but progression, making it slightly more and more difficult. Don't tell me you can't shoot the acid test and you've been trying to shoot 6-inch draw shots and you can't make them, and then you make a 6-inch draw shot and now you separate the balls by 3 diamonds and you tell me you can't draw it back to the rail. Of course you can, because I didn't do a 6-inch draw shot and then say, okay, now I can draw it back halfway down the table. It doesn't come that way. So progression. Engagement is the E in the P.E.T.R.A method. That means being there, being in the moment when you're actually practicing. You're not watching TV, you're not listening to the radio, you're not having a conversation with somebody. You are in the moment. You are totally engaged in what's going on. That alone will increase a lot of people's practice time, just not being distracted by outside things. The T in P.E.T.R.A stands for time. If you're going to get better, you're going to have to put in time, but you don't have to put in 2, 3, 4, 8 hours a day. If you put in 15 minutes, you put in 15 minutes more than the average person. And if you do all these other things with that 15 minutes and make it efficient, then it was worth just doing that 15 minutes. So, that's where the T in time comes from. Resistance is the R in P.E.T.R.A. So resistance is kind of like progression, but you're making things slightly more difficult than the real world. So now, instead of being, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example outside a pool, and then I'll give you an example inside a pool. An example outside a pool, you're training to be a sprinter, and you're running with a parachute on, okay, or a weighted vest or something like that. Now you take it off. I always refer to baseball. You're warming up with weights on your
a donut, yeah, like a donut.
Exactly. So resistance means making things a little bit more difficult. Now, how can you do that? We talked last week about pocket reducers.
Yes.
Pocket reducers are an example. You play in the APA on 7-foot tables every day. Go practice on 9-foot tables. That's resistance. I've never met a guy that plays well on 9-foot tables that said, I just can't get through those racks on the 7-foot tables. There's no such guy. So it is a slightly different game, but shoot your drills on a 9-foot table and then go play your APA match on Monday. It's going to be, a lot easier for you. Yeah, exactly. So resistance, whatever you need to do. I talked before in other videos about the solid balls. If you guys have ever seen my videos where I'm shooting just a solid red and black balls, it's not just because they're cool that I own them. People are like, where can I buy those? No, it's not that they're just cool. There's no reference on those balls. There's no stripes, there's no numbers, there's no anything. And that increases your ability to make shots when you practice without references on the ball. There's no, because you might not be conscious of it, but when you line up a shot, you're thinking to yourself, okay, if I hit this a little to the...
Especially a stripe ball, right?
Yeah, there's so many references on it. You have a target, where the balls, when they don't have a reference on it, are a little bit more difficult. And the black ones obviously create resistance because people get mental blocks about 8 balls. They have a tough time seeing dark balls. Anyway, I don't need to get into all of that, but that's an idea of what resistance is. And then the A is analyzation. That just comes down to keeping score. How much better am I today than I was before? Because nothing sucks more than putting in 2 or 3 hours of practice every day for a month and you didn't get any better. So you want to know for sure that you're getting better, and it's good it's good mentally to see that progression. So that's the that's the P.E.T.R.A method. Last thing, analyze yourself, make sure you're actually using that time wisely. That's my rant on practice, and I hopefully people got something out of that. And anything that you want to add, Jason?
No, I think we covered a lot of the points that I had thought about during practice, watching a couple of your videos. It's incredibly important. Drilling is so important. I think being in the moment, I believe it was your engagement point on your P.E.T.R.A method that I thought was one of the ones that because yeah, we have so many distractions in life, whether it's while you're practicing or just on your mind when you're shooting balls. I mean, that could really throw you off a little bit and leads to frustration. So yeah, engage, be in that moment, and let's get to it.
But again, keep in mind, if you do 15 minutes, you probably did 15 minutes more than the people you're going to be playing on Monday at your APA match. So keep that in mind. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. Hit us in the comments. Let us know what you do as far as your practice session and how many hours a day or week or month you're able to get in and what you do during those sessions. Have a great day. And again, thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
What can I say any more than desire? More than just a pretty face. So girl, you better walk away. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Only one love at the side of the fire. Someone who can handle me. Someone cut your heart to beat. Oh yeah, oh yeah. If you try to come closer.